The roar of the crowd outside the Chicago hotel was deafening. President Cole, charismatic and confident, was shaking hands with high-profile donors at a fundraiser for his new healthcare initiative. Sarah Jenkins, a senior trauma nurse, was only there because the conference was honoring her hospital's innovative medical program. She was standing 20 feet away when she saw it. It wasn't the sound, it was the light. A flash of red, a sniper's laser, dancing on the president's chest. The Secret Service, led by the stoic Chief Marcus Thorne, hadn't reacted. They were looking at the crowd, not the rooftops. Sarah didn't think. She was a nurse. She moved toward the danger. "Get down," she screamed, shoving her body into the president's. The crack of the rifle was instantaneous. Instead of hitting the president's heart, the bullet shattered Sarah's shoulder. The world exploded in a storm of screams and black suits. As agents formed a human wall, Sarah collapsed, her own blood pooling on the hotel's expensive rug. The last thing she saw before blacking out was Chief Thorne, not looking at her, but staring at the chaos with a look of cold, calculating fury. Sarah woke to the steady, rhythmic beep of a cardiac monitor. The pain in her shoulder was a hot, searing fire, but her medical training allowed her to compartmentalize it. She wasn't in a normal recovery room. This was a private, secure wing of the hospital, with an armed agent standing guard right outside her door. Chief Marcus Thorne, the man in charge of the president's life, stood at the foot of her bed, his face like a stone mask. "Nurse Jenkins, the president sends his profound gratitude," Thorne said, his voice flat, lacking any warmth. "Your financial future is secure. The nation is calling you a hero." "The president, is he safe?" Sarah whispered, her throat dry. "He is. Now, I need your official statement for the investigation. What exactly did you see?" "I saw a red laser," Sarah said firmly, despite the pain. "A sniper's dot. On his chest, right before the shot. It came from the building across the street." Thorne's eyes narrowed, just for a second, a flicker of something cold. "You're mistaken, nurse. The medications are strong. You saw a camera flash. You reacted to the sound of the shot. That will be the official record." "But that's not what happened," Sarah insisted. "I'm a trauma nurse. I'm trained to observe details under pressure, and I'm trained to protect this country," Thorne countered, his voice dropping into a threat. "This interview is over. You need to rest, hero. We'll handle the security protocols from here." He left, and Sarah was left with a chilling new pain that had nothing to do with her wound. Fear. He wasn't just correcting her. He was threatening her. Sarah spent 2 days in that sealed room, a gilded cage. The news, playing on a constant loop on her wall-mounted TV, called her the nation's guardian. But she felt like a prisoner. Agent Daniels, the new guard at her door, was polite but firm. "No visitors. No phone. Chief Thorne's orders, ma'am. It's for your personal security." "I need to speak to my floor supervisor," Sarah insisted. "My patients, my charts. Everything is being handled," Daniels replied, his eyes never leaving the hallway. That afternoon, a familiar face finally broke the isolation. Dr. Ben Carter, her oldest friend and the hospital's head of IT, walked in carrying a tablet. "Special consult," Ben announced, giving Daniels a practiced, professional nod. "Chief," Thorne approved. "I'm here to review her healthcare data for post-op." As soon as the door clicked shut, Ben's smile vanished. "Sarah, what the hell is going on? This place is locked down tighter than a financial audit. You look terrified." "Ben, they're lying," Sarah whispered, the words hurting her throat. "Thorne told me to change my story. He said I saw a camera flash, not a laser. He threatened me." Ben's face went pale. "What?" "Sarah, that's obstruction. I know what I saw," she insisted, grabbing his arm. "And Thorne knows I know." Ben glanced at the door, then back at his tablet. "Listen to me, Sarah. I don't know what kind of high-level investigation this is, but you need to be careful. You know this hospital just upgraded its entire medical technology system, right? New digital security. Everything is backed up to an off-site secure network. They call it the archive. It's designed to protect patient privacy and data against any breach. It records everything, even the conference room." Sarah asked. "Every camera, every public space. It's infallible. Thorne's men probably erased the local files, but they wouldn't even know the archive exists." The next morning, the door opened. It wasn't Ben. It was Chief Thorne, and he wasn't alone. He was flanked by 2 grim-faced agents who looked more like executioners than protectors. "Nurse Jenkins, your status has changed," Thorne said. He nodded to one of the agents, who remotely turned on the TV. The headline, scrolling in bold red letters, made Sarah's heart stop. "Hero nurse implicated in attack." What is that?" Sarah stammered. "That's libel. That's a lie. Is it? Thorne dropped a file onto her bedside table. It was a bank statement. Her bank statement. But it showed a financial transaction she had never seen. A wire transfer for $250,000, deposited into her checking account 48 hours before the fundraiser. The money came from an offshore account linked to the same terrorist cell we believe hired the sniper. You signaled him, Sarah? You pointed out the target by shoving him. That's insane. I saved his life, she cried, the beeping of her monitor accelerating with her panic. You're a disgruntled healthcare worker. You publicly opposed the president's new healthcare initiative last month in an online forum. Thorne said, reading from a sheet. You're not a hero. You're a plant. We're moving you to a secure detention center as soon as you're stable. You are being charged with treason. He turned to leave. You won't get away with this, Thorne. I know what I saw. Thorne paused at the door, his voice a venomous whisper. No one will ever believe you. By the time the Legal Services Division assigns you a public defender, your reputation will be destroyed. You're no longer a nurse, Miss Jenkins. You're a traitor. The door slammed shut, the heavy lock clicking into place, sealing her fate. Sarah was alone, trapped. The news reports were poison, painting her as a radicalized employee, a Judas in scrubs. They were already dissecting her financial history, her old student loans, her online subscriptions, twisting every mundane detail into a motive for treason. They were transferring her tonight. Her career was over. Her life was over. Just as despair began to consume her, the fire alarm panel above her door suddenly sparked and went dark. A moment later, the electronic lock on her door hissed open. Ben Carter slid in, dressed in the blue scrubs of a surgical tech, pulling a gurney. We don't have time, he said, his voice tense. That alarm blackout will last 90 seconds, tops. Get on. Ben, they're moving me. They said I committed treason. They planted financial records. Sarah's voice was hoarse with panic as she struggled to sit up. I know. I saw the news. That's why I'm here, he said, helping her onto the gurney and covering her with a sheet. They're building a narrative, Sarah. A digital security team is already wiping the hospital's local servers. Thorne's men. They're calling it a data breach from the attack. He started pushing the gurney out, moving with urgent purpose. But the archive? Sarah whispered from beneath the sheet. That's the problem. It's a secure network, completely isolated. The only access terminal is in the old mainframe room in the sub-basement. The one they keep locked. Then how? Thorne's men are busy up here, Ben said, his knuckles white as he pushed the gurney into a service elevator. They think they're the only ones who know how to play dirty. The service elevator doors opened onto the sub-basement. The air was cold, smelling of dust and ozone. This level wasn't part of the hospital's sleek, modern renovation. This was the building's concrete skeleton. Ben pushed the gurney into a dark corridor, stopping at a heavy steel door marked IT mainframe, secure network access. This is it, Ben said, pulling a cloned keycard from his pocket. The lock beeped green, and they slipped inside. The room was filled with humming server racks, their blinking lights a stark contrast to the darkness. In the corner sat the lone terminal for the archive. They're probably searching the patient records database upstairs, Ben muttered, his fingers flying across the keyboard. They wouldn't think to look here. Ben, they're going to find us, Sarah said, wincing as she slid off the gurney. Her shoulder throbbed, a brutal reminder of the bullet. They're busy creating a digital footprint that frames you, Ben typed. They're inserting falsified financial records into your employee file right now, I guarantee it. He hit a final command. Okay, I'm past the firewall. I'm in the archive. He started pulling up camera feeds from the night of the fundraiser. Ballroom, West Angle. Ballroom, podium. Look, Sarah pointed, ignoring the pain. Camera 4. The podium angle. Ben clicked, and the footage filled the screen. There it was. President Cole, shaking hands. And then, for a fraction of a second, a tiny, brilliant red dot flickered onto his suit. You were right, Ben breathed. It's faint, but it's there. The video evidence is clear. But Thorne, Sarah started, is right there. Ben rewound the footage. Look, when the shot hits you, Thorne doesn't move toward the president. He turns away. He looks at Agent Daniels and gives a signal. A stand-down signal. Oh my God, Sarah whispered. He let it happen. He planned it. Ben said, his face grim. We have it, Sarah. We have the proof. Download it, Sarah urged. The buzzing stopped. A heavy, metallic thud echoed through the small room as someone slammed their weight against the steel door. They're trying to force it, Ben whispered, his eyes glued to the monitor. The video file was massive. The progress bar crawled agonizingly slow. 30%, 40%. It needs more time. They know we're here, Sarah said, her heart hammering. Her medical knowledge told her she was in shock, but her adrenaline was the only thing keeping her standing. Another crash, louder this time. The sound of a crowbar prying at the jamb. This isn't just a security breach, Ben. This is a coup. Thorne tried to kill him. I know, Ben said, glancing frantically around the room. He pointed to a large, dusty ventilation grate near the ceiling. That's our only way. It leads to the old boiler room. The download bar hit 80%. The lock on the door sparked and hissed as they began drilling it out. 90%. Ben, they're through. 95%. Ben's fingers were poised over the keyboard. 99%. Download complete. He ripped the USB drive from the port just as the steel door flew open, slamming against the server rack. Agent Daniels stood there, gun raised, his face twisted with rage. Give me the drive, nurse, he commanded. It's over. Go, Sarah screamed. She grabbed the heaviest thing she could find, an obsolete data storage tape drive, and hurled it with her good arm at the main server rack. It hit with a crash, sending a shower of sparks. Daniels flinched. In that 1 second of hesitation, Ben shoved Sarah toward the grate, which he'd ripped open. He boosted her up into the darkness. Don't stop running, he yelled, turning to face Daniels, unarmed. You'll have to kill me first. Daniels raised his weapon, and Sarah scrambled into the suffocating darkness of the shaft, the sound of a struggle erupting behind her. The ventilation shaft was a dark, metal tomb. Sarah crawled, dragging her wounded body, every movement sending a fresh wave of agony through her shoulder. Below her, she heard the hospital's PA system burst to life. Code Silver. Code Silver. Secure all exits. Suspect is female, 5 feet 6 inches, brown hair, patient gown. Subject is considered dangerous. They were locking down the entire medical center. Ben was caught. Or worse. The thought sent a new jolt of terror through her, but she couldn't stop. She owed it to him. She pushed open a grate and tumbled into a dark linen closet, stifling a scream as she landed on her injured arm. Her hospital gown was soaked in fresh blood. She was running out of time. Peeking through the slats, she saw the hallway was chaos. Agents were sweeping every room. Her face was plastered on a TV at the nurse's station, the cherin blazing. Fugitive nurse. Armed and dangerous. She was a ghost in her own hospital. She couldn't call the police. Thorne's investigation controlled everything. She couldn't trust any healthcare worker who might recognize her. She needed an ally. She thought back to the fundraiser. There was one person who never left the president's side, someone whose loyalty seemed absolute. Chief of Staff, Elizabeth Vance. Vance was sharp, professional, and watched President Cole with a fierce, protective gaze. The news said the president was recovering in the penthouse suite. Vance would be with him. It was the only way. She ripped a white lab coat from a hook, pulled it on over her gown, and stepped into the hallway. The elevator bank was impossible. Thorne's agents were on every level. Sarah ducked into a stairwell, her only option. Climbing was torture. Each step sent a jolt of fire up her arm, and she was leaving a trail of blood. By the time she reached the penthouse floor, she was dizzy, her vision tunneling. She leaned against the wall, forcing herself to breathe. The hallway was a fortress. 2 agents guarded the main door. But she knew this floor. She knew the healthcare protocols. There was a service entrance for the medical cart. She staggered to the service door and entered the passcode. It hissed open. She found herself in a small anteroom. Through the crack in the next door, she could hear voices. Chief of Staff Elizabeth Vance, her voice sharp with exhaustion. Marcus, I don't care about the media strategy. I want her found. The president is asking for her. We will find her, ma'am. Thorne's voice, cold and reassuring. She's a security risk. The evidence is clear. It's too clear, Marcus, Vance snapped. It's too neat. This was it. Sarah stumbled through the door. He's lying, she yelled. Vance spun around. Thorne drew his weapon. Stop, or I'll shoot. Thorne commanded. Go ahead, Sarah gasped, clutching the USB drive in her bloody hand. Just like you tried to shoot the president. She's delirious, Thorne said, advancing. Ma'am, step away from her. He planned it, Sarah choked out, throwing the USB drive onto the table near Vance. The laser. The stand-down signal. Your security team. It's all in the archive. The hospital's backup system. He couldn't erase it. Vance stared at the drive, then at Thorne's face. The blood drained from his features. He knew he was caught. He lunged for the drive, but Vance was faster. Don't move, Marcus, Vance said, her voice dropping to ice. She picked up the drive and looked at the agent who had followed Thorne in. Agent Price, arrest Chief Thorne. Now. "Ma'am, I don't." Agent Price stammered. "That, a week." 3 days later, Sarah stood beside the podium in the White House briefing room. Her arm was in a sling, and she was wearing a simple, professional dress, not a hospital gown. Ben Carter, nursing a few bruises but smiling, stood with the First Lady. The room was packed with press. President Cole walked to the podium, his face somber but strong. "Good morning," he began, the cameras flashing. 2 days ago, this nation was told a lie. We were told a hero was a traitor. Today, we correct the record. He detailed Thorne's entire conspiracy, the faked financial records, the attempted security breach to erase the video evidence, and the attempted murder of a president. He announced Thorne and 12 other agents were in custody, facing charges of treason. "Nurse Sarah Jenkins didn't just save my life," the president said, his voice thick with emotion as he turned to her. "She saved the integrity of this office. When my own men betrayed me, a civilian, a healthcare professional whose entire life is dedicated to patient privacy and saving lives, refused to be silenced." He faced the cameras again. "We've learned a hard lesson. Loyalty isn't about serving power," he declared. "It's about protecting truth. Ms. Jenkins, the nation owes you a debt we can never fully repay." He unpinned the Presidential Medal of Freedom from his own lapel and pinned it on her. The room erupted, not in questions, but in a wave of applause, a roar of vindication.